Yes, sir.
OCHO, change of plan in Cleveland. Why you want to see him on personnel groupings when it's my day?
Shedeur Sanders had a day. His day. The day Cleveland's own coaching staff put on the schedule for him to run with the ones. And then it just didn't happen. Deshaun Watson walked in and took every single rep with the starting offense instead, on the exact day that belonged to Shedeur. Shannon, Sharpe, and Chad Johnson caught wind of it, and they did not hold back. One of them is calling it business. The other is asking why today of all days. Stick around, because by the end of this, you're going to understand exactly what Cleveland is really doing behind closed doors. Here's what actually happened in Cleveland this week, and it is not a small thing if you've been following this quarterback battle. According to Mary Kay Cabot, who covers the Browns closer than almost anybody in that building, Wednesday's practice was supposed to be Shedeur Sanders' day with the #1 offense. That's not a guess. That's not a fan theory. Todd Monken himself said, minutes before practice started, that Deshaun Watson might get some work in 7-on-7, but the majority of the first-team reps were going to Shedeur. Then practice happened, and none of that came true. Deshaun Watson took every single rep with the starting offense. Everyone. Shedeur was left splitting what was left over with Dillon Gabriel on a day the team had already told everybody belonged to him. Monken didn't talk to the media after practice to explain it. Instead, it was Cabot reporting that the team's spokesman chalked it up to personnel groupings, saying the coaching staff simply wanted to see Deshaun with certain guys that day. No further explanation, no real accountability for changing the plan on the exact day it mattered most. And that's the part that got under Shannon Sharpe's skin immediately. Because this isn't some random Tuesday walkthrough. This is a team that has been telling the public, telling the media, telling its own quarterback room that this is a genuine open competition. And then, the day they said belonged to the rookie who beat out 2 other guys and finished the season as QB1, that day gets handed to the guy making $230 million guaranteed instead. Chad Johnson's first reaction was blunt. He said this is exactly what he already predicted would happen, not a shock to him at all. But Shannon Sharpe wasn't ready to just brush past it, and that's where this conversation turned into something a lot more interesting than your average quarterback debate.
Deshaun Watson and Shedeur Sanders had been rotating first-team reps on the day when Shedeur was scheduled to practice with the starting offense. Deshaun took every rep with the #1 unit. Shedeur split the remaining reps with Dillon Gabriel. In fact, Todd Monken just said minutes before practice, Deshaun might end up with 7-on-7, but Shedeur would take the majority of the reps with the ones. That did not happen. Monken did not speak to the media after practice, but according to Mary Kay Cabot, Browns team spokesman said there were personal groupings Coach Monken wanted to see Deshaun with today. He took all the first-team reps on what was supposed to be Shedeur Sanders' day.
Chad Johnson didn't get defensive about it. He didn't say the Browns were disrespecting his nephew. He went straight to the business of it. And honestly, it's hard to argue with the logic, even if it stings. His point is simple. Cleveland is paying Deshaun Watson $230 million fully guaranteed. That's not a typo. That's the real number. And it's one of the largest guarantees in the history of the sport. Chad's argument is that no franchise on earth hands out that kind of money and then leaves the guy parked on the bench because the fan base would rather watch the rookie play. From a pure business standpoint, you are not going to bury a $230 million investment just because it's the popular move. So as camp closes in on the first preseason game, Chad's read is that Monken is ramping up Watson's reps with the ones because come week 1 in September, Watson is probably starting. Not maybe, probably. Chad even said it directly, that as much as he loves Shedeur, as much as he'd love to see him get the job right now, when it comes down to who signs the checks and who's calling the shots in that building, Watson is going to be QB1 to open the season. No ifs, ands, or buts, in his words. But Chad didn't leave it there, and this is the part that matters. He said if things go sideways, if Cleveland is losing by week 4 or 5, that's when Shedeur gets his real chance. And once he gets it, Chad believes he holds on to it. not just for the rest of this season, but potentially for good, while Watson moves on somewhere else next year. Shannon Sharpe pushed back hard on the timing of that. He pointed out that by week 4 or 5, it might already be too late. The NFL doesn't forgive slow starts. You dig a hole in September and October, and Cleveland's roster isn't built to climb out of it, not with the offensive weaponry they currently have around whoever is under center. Shannon's argument is that this isn't a team that can afford to spot the league 4 losses before making the switch that half the fan base already wants. So you've got 2 very different reads on the exact same situation. Chad sees cold, hard business. Shannon sees a team potentially costing itself wins by waiting too long. And that disagreement is exactly what set up the moment that got Shannon the most heated.
Obviously, you want to evaluate your talent. You want to evaluate, your quarterbacks, which ones, and those who are going to actually be in the game. As we get closer to the first preseason game, the ones need to work with the ones as much as possible. Why he's probably ramping up the reps for Deshaun Watson with the number 1 crew, who on starting day in September, whatever the first game is probably going to be Deshaun Watson. Again, Chad, as much as I love Shedeur, I would love for him to start. I would love for him to play right now. But when it comes to business, those that make the decisions, and because how much Deshaun Watson is making this year, he will be the starting quarterback for the Cleveland Browns. That's it. There's no ifs, ands, buts about it. Who you might like, who you don't like. I'm just from a business standpoint. You're not having a $40 million quarterback sitting on the bench because the rest of the world wants to see Shedeur play.
So, if the business logic makes sense, why does Shannon still sound personally frustrated about it? Because for Shannon, this isn't really about whether Watson deserves reps in general. It's about the specific day they took them on, and he wasn't letting that go. Shannon kept circling back to one question. Why did it have to be Shedeur's day specifically? Why not the day before? Why not the day after? He asked directly, more than once, what was so special about that particular practice that suddenly personnel groupings needed Watson with the starters instead of the guy who was scheduled to be out there? If the plan really was alternating the reps, like the team said publicly, then something changed the plan on exactly the day it would have mattered most for Shedeur to show what he can do in front of the coaching staff. That's the frustration. It's not that Watson got work in, it's the timing of when he got it, and the fact that nobody in the building has given a real explanation beyond a generic line about groupings. Chad tried to steer it back toward the on-field reality, saying that whatever happens with Watson is going to come down to the guys around him being on point. Every route has to be run right. Every catch has to be made clean. No mental errors from the receivers of the tight ends. Because if this offense wants Watson to look anything like the version of him from 2020, everybody around him has to be locked in. Shannon agreed the weapons are real, mentioning names like Casey Conception coming in as a rookie receiver and the tight end room getting stronger, but he kept steering it back to the offensive line, asking directly if Cleveland actually did anything to upgrade that group, because in his eyes, that's going to be the real swing factor, no matter who's throwing the ball. Then Shannon made the point that really framed the whole debate. He said no quarterback in NFL history has ever had this steep of a drop-off and then fully recaptured that elite level after this many years away from playing at a high level. Guys have had one down year and bounced back the next season, sure, but Watson hasn't played like an elite passer in years, and Shannon's stance is that expecting a full return to 2020 form is asking for something the league has genuinely never seen before. Chad's counter was that Cleveland doesn't need Watson to be a top 5 quarterback in the league. They just need him competent enough with the right talent around him to be productive. Because based on Chad's own breakdown, roughly 12 of the 16 other teams they'd be measured against still have more overall talent than Cleveland does anyway. They went division by division to prove the point, too. AFC North, close, everybody's about even. AFC South, Houston and Jacksonville and Indianapolis all ahead offensively. AFC West, Denver, the Chargers, and Kansas City all a different level. AFC East, New England and Buffalo pulling clearly ahead. Added up, and Chad's own math says 12 teams have more talent than Cleveland on paper. Shannon's response to that was simple. If the roster talent is already behind that many teams, then the margin for error at quarterback gets even smaller, and that's exactly why the reps this specific week matter so much. You can't afford to waste evaluation time on a rookie who might be your actual answer if the roster around him needs him playing at his best immediately.
They don't have that type of weaponry. And I'm just trying to figure out why you want to see him on personnel groupings when it's my day. When it's come to his day, okay, now you can see it. So what about tomorrow? Why? So we can't do these groupings tomorrow?
Yeah.
So what was so special about my day that I'm supposed to get the reps? We supposed to alternate. So you didn't want to see him with the group tomorrow, huh?
I'm with you on this one, Ocho. I think you give Deshaun Watson a fair shake. You know, you give him an opportunity to really come out and show and prove if he can get back to that elite quarterback play that he once was.
Now here's where it gets almost funny, because the same day Watson took Shedeur's reps, Monken was on camera praising exactly what makes Shedeur different. Later in that same conversation, Todd Monken was shown talking specifically about Shedeur's growth, in what he praised had nothing to do with arm talent or flash plays. He talked about Shedeur's pre-snap and post-snap operation improving, his eyes and his feet working together, and most importantly, his ability to check the ball down or throw it away instead of forcing something, because Monken openly said that for a guy who's such a natural playmaker, learning to accept a small loss instead of trying to make every single play a highlight is actually a real developmental win. Shannon and Chad had literally been saying this on their own show before Monken said it publicly, that the difference between a good college quarterback and a franchise NFL quarterback often comes down to knowing when not to force it. Shedeur himself has apparently told people around the building that he doesn't want to mess up his completion percentage by forcing bad throws, and Chad pointed out that's exactly the maturity teams look for, understanding that taking a small loss beats turning 2nd and 3 into 3rd and 13. But that's what makes the timing so strange to sit with. The coaching staff is on record praising the exact growth that would justify giving Shedeur more first-team reps, not fewer. And Chad even said it out loud in a half-joking, half-serious way, pointing out that Monken basically credited Shedeur's growth as the reason, and then turned around and gave his reps away that same week. If the growth is real and the staff sees it, why does the reward for that growth look like losing practice time to the guy making $230 million? Shannon's read on that contradiction is blunt. He thinks the Browns already know who's starting week 1, and that Todd Monken can't come out and say that publicly, because then camp stops feeling like a real competition and guys stop pushing themselves as hard. So instead, you get a coach publicly praising the rookie's growth while quietly funneling the reps through the guaranteed money at exactly the moments that matter for evaluation. Chad's response to that theory was simple. When has ever team benched the guy carrying the biggest guaranteed contract on the roster? Either Watson starts or the team eats the money and moves on completely, the same way other franchises have done with other veteran quarterbacks recently. There's rarely an in-between where the big money guy just sits. And that's really the whole tension of this Browns quarterback room right now. It's not a talent debate anymore. Almost everybody in that conversation agrees Shedeur has shown real flashes, real command, real growth in exactly the areas Monken says matter most. This has become a contract and a business debate wearing a competition's clothes. Chad keeps bringing it back to the guaranteed money, because that's the lens front offices actually use. Shannon keeps bringing it back to specific practice days, because that's the lens fans and evaluators use when they're trying to figure out who the coaching staff genuinely trusts right now, not who they're contractually stuck with.
They didn't throw me no balls down the field. I can't have 80 yards if they're only throwing me 3-yard routes. Give me something I can push down the field and I can make something happen.
Yeah.
But did you hear what that man said? His growth. He grew so much that I let Deshaun Watson take his reps today. That's how much he grew. I mean, hold on. Chad, was I the only one Did I the only one to hear what he said?
Nah.
Oh, his growth and understanding that throwing the ball away and, blah, blah, blah.
And that line right there is the entire debate in one sentence. So where does that leave things heading into the preseason? Cleveland opens preseason play on August 15th against the Bears, then kicks off the real season on September 13th. Chad's stance is that Watson takes the job out of the gate because of the money and the timeline, but that Shedeur is one bad stretch away from getting the keys, potentially for the long haul. Shannon's stance is that the timing of this particular week, taking Shedeur's specific rep day right after praising his growth, says a lot more about what this staff already decided than anything they're saying out loud. Both of them agree on one thing, though. Shedeur has earned real consideration. He's won everywhere he's been, from Jackson State to Colorado to taking over mid-season as a rookie and finishing the year as QB1. The pattern with Shedeur has always been the same. People find a reason to discount the winning right up until the winning becomes impossible to ignore. Whether Cleveland is genuinely running an open competition or already has its mind made up behind the scenes, the reps this specific week say something. The only question is whether it's business, strategy, or something the team just isn't ready to admit publicly yet. So here's where we leave it. Chad Johnson says, trust the business. Watson's guaranteed money means he starts week 1 no matter what the practice reps looked like this week. Shannon Sharpe says pay attention to the timing, because taking Shedeur's specific rep day right after praising his growth tells you exactly what this coaching staff already believes. Todd Monken says it's an open competition. The reps this week said something different. So we want to know what you think. Do you believe Cleveland is running a real, honest quarterback competition, or do you think Deshaun Watson was always going to be the starter no matter how camp actually played out? Drop your answer in the comments right now. Smash like and subscribe.